And so I wanted to go over with you quickly what comes in the Smart Rover kit. So the first thing we've got is the project manual. And this is a well-produced manual that has a lot of the projects included, along with some other helpful material, starting with the parts list. And we'll get into this, the projects a little bit later. You'll see those. But we're going to take a look first at the materials that come in the kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the layers that come in the kit when you receive it. And so this is the first layer, and one of the first things is a HDMI cable. It's got a mini HDMI on one end and an HDMI standard on the other. This is what you will connect to the Raspberry Pi to a monitor in order to program the Raspberry Pi. Now, the next item we have is the smart module itself. This large blue piece actually contains the Raspberry Pi, which is a single board computer that we will be programming in Python to run some of the projects with the Smart Rover. And of course, what makes this unique is the Raspberry Pi is already installed inside, but we have our snap stem set up so that we can integrate this with the snap circuits on which the system is built. Next, we have a speaker that we will use in some of our projects. It will sit up like this. You can see the snaps on the end, and this is labeled SP2 for speaker. And then we have our photo transistor that we will use for several of our activities. Let me spin that around for us. And that is labeled Q4. That's our photo transistor. And again, has the snaps that will let us connect, and then the actual photo transistor itself. Next, we have a slider switch. This is S1, and it's a simple on-off slider switch circuit, again with our snap stems so that we can connect it. Next, we have our programmable fan. And get where you can see this. This is M8, and it has a way to control the mode. A little bit tough to see here, but you've got your negative and your positive, an up and down controller. And on the blade of the fan, on one blade, you actually have some LEDs built in there that we will use on some of our activities to create some great visual effects. Then we have our slider switch. Our selector switch. This is a 3-part selector, ABC. It's labeled S8, and by connecting this in the proper sequence in our circuits, we can use this to select different options. So that is our first layer. I'm going to set that aside, and what you'll find next is our base grid, and this is a piece of plexiglass that is designed with little stems for us to rest our snaps on. And it's really hard to see here, but you see that it is labeled A, B, C, all the way through G along the left side, and then 1 through 10 along the top. And those are labeled there just to kind of give us some guidance when we are building our various circuits, just kind of as a way to line things up. So that is our base grid. Then in the next level, we have several things, starting with the largest. This is our motor control. It's U8. It's got several snaps that we will be using to connect. Several of them are color-coded. So when we're using those, we will take note of that. And also notice that it is labeled with a positive and a negative for these snaps here that we will use. Then we have 2 of these 100 farad, microfarad capacitors. These are C4. Let that focus. And again, there are 2 of those. And then we have a 0.02 microfarad capacitor. This is C1. Focus is not being the greatest right now. And then we have our white LED, and this is D4. And one of the things that we'll pay attention to as we're building is the fact that our LEDs are directional. So there is an arrow built into this between our snaps. There's the actual LED. So one of those. And then we have our capacitors, our resistors, and we have a total of 4 of our 1000 or 1K resistors that are R2. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then there's a 4th one up here. And then we also have one 100 ohm resistor, and this is R1. And then we have our, this almost hides because it's clear colored, but this is our horn. It's a programmable horn that we can use to create sound. And it's hard to see down there with the color, but it's labeled W1 and has the piezo horn in the middle and of course 2 snaps. Then we have a press switch. This is S2, and this is a simple press switch that when connected we can press to complete the circuit, and we'll create some circuits with that. Of course, to connect all of this, we've got a set of 6 jumper wires, and these colors, they're not in this order right now, but we're going to call these blue, and then red and white, yellow, gray, and green. So our 6 wires, they're tied together now, but they're about 6 inches long each. And then to build our circuits out, we have several of our 2-snap wire, and these are actually hard plastic, the snaps, but they serve the purpose of a wire. So for our 2-snap wires, we have a total of 6, and they're just snapped together in pairs. 1, 2, 3 pairs for 6. And then we have a pair of 3-snap wires. Really trying to get my focus working here. There we go, our 3-snap wires. And then we have 1 4-snap wire, but we actually store it on top of the 5. So here's our 4 and our 5 snap wires. And then if you notice, just because we use it occasionally as a spacer, we have what we call a 1-snap wire. And it's just this little button looking snap. We need that to kind of space things out some. And we actually have 2 of those. 1 snaps on the top of the 5 wire, and 1 snaps on top of the 7. Find it right here on the end. And then we have a number 6 and a number 7 snap wire that are included as well. And then our last item on this level is our power supply for the actual Raspberry Pi. It actually has the Raspberry Pi emblem on it. It's a little tough to see there. But this is our USB-C power supply. It's very, very important that you only use this power supply to plug in the Raspberry Pi that is contained in the Smart Module. Different voltages can have adverse effects on that, and you want to only use the power supply that was included. Now that brings us to the final layer, which is what we're all here for. This is the Smart Rover by Snap Circuits and Smart Factory. The Smart Rover is designed so that our base that we showed earlier, those hexagons, allow us to fit the base plate onto the rover, and then we can build upon this. Okay, we'll be able to connect our smart module to the base plate, the motor control to provide power to the rover. Kind of give you all the different views here. Here's the front of our Smart Rover. The two sides. You look close, you can see the gears inside. Both sides are identical. But the fun is our snaps on the back that are color-coded to allow us to connect our other controls to the Smart Rover itself. So this is the Smart Rover that will allow us to act as a base, a mobile base in this case, to build upon. So those are the contents of our Smart Rover project kit. And you can watch for more videos where we will go into detail about how to build the different projects. And you will see those just coming up shortly. Thanks so much.